So, just to be clear, I am not one of these. We must support Israel because they're God's chosen people kind of people. That's not what I am. I am a Christian, of course. I'm not a cynical Christian, but I'm just a Christian who doesn't believe that God's people are just Israel. I don't believe the modern state of Israel is prophetic, Israel returning to the homeland, none of that stuff. God's people are those who believe in Christ. That's kind of what I am about. I say all that just to preface this little video I'm making. Hopefully, it'll be a little video. Might go for a little bit longer because I tend to be long winded. But I say all that because uh, I don't want people to think that when I make this video, that I'm just defending the Jews, blah, 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 things like that. I'm defending America, going to war for the Jews and for Israel, and it's all the Jews and everything like that. All that silliness that I have a feeling that a couple of years from now, people are going to get really bored of that kind of rhetoric. I'm already getting bored of it. I'm already getting sick and tired of it, to be honest with you. Today I watched Mark Dice, and in one of his videos, he made it yesterday, I think, about you know very strong criticisms of Trump's actions in Iran right now. Um, but yeah, I honestly, as a guy who actually kind of likes Mark Dice and a lot of his takes, very annoyed with him here, and I'm starting to see a pattern with Mark. Mark doesn't like what he always does is again he you frame a narrative. So you basically go like he goes, well, we were just about to get some serious UFO files released and more stuff about the Epstein files, but look, oh, lo and behold, this thing happened here, and what a coinkydink. And like I listen to that stuff, and I'm just like, is it like, do you have any substantial proof that that's actually why this happened? It could actually just be a coincidence. How do you know it isn't? So I get tired of hearing stuff like that. So you just frame a narrative where you just, Trump's going after, he's going after the Iranian governments, and I don't like that. So hey, what can we find in the news that could have been happening right now? Then all of a sudden, whoop! Oh, look at this. Here it is. You can make coincidences out of anything you want, um, pretty much. It's not really that hard to do. But also in the video, I mean, it's like a 15-minute long video, and he's just constantly talking about a lot of like he spends so much time not even talking about the current events going on in Iran, but he just starts going off and spouting off on all these pro-Jewish lobbyists and stuff like that, talking about how we need to ban contrarian views from social media. These are like things that have been said like some time ago. He just goes over all these things over and over for like 15 minutes. And it's like, what does that have to do with what the current conflict is right now? Like, it doesn't really have anything to do with it because he's just trying to make a point. He's framing a narrative. Though this is just about wars for Israel. That's just all it's really about. And so I'm going to show you a montage of clips that have happened somewhere in the past, have nothing to actually do with what's going on in the Middle East, but have in the past just these guys talking about these pro-Israel lobbyists saying we should ban people who or vet people for being for allowing them to be on the internet for being pro-Israel. Of course, so then he starts talking about comedians like Dave Chappelle, a couple other guys. One guy is a Jewish comedian. Again, these guys are secularists. They're not Christians by any means. These are cynical people. They're as secular as you get. So obviously, they're going to be very critical of Israel for many, many reasons. It's like I have a really big problem with simply criticizing, like using sources from particular people like Dave Smith, who are not really on our side. They're really not. They're at best they're like libertarian esque, libertine kind of people. So I'm not really sure I'd really want to use those kind of guys as sources for like information. Uh, you know, they're right about this. Well, okay, well then I guess we can just anybody who agrees with us. It could be for totally different reasons, but at least they agree with us. We're just going to use those sources. Like man, I have problems with that kind of stuff. And so, but anyways, yeah, even as somebody who's kind of a fan of Mark Dice, and I'm subscribed to him. I've liked a lot of his takes on a lot of things. I'm getting kind of tired of this. I'm getting tired of this Israel. It's all just Israel. It's all Israel. It's all the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. I'm just like, just, man, dude, it's really really annoying. But like for me, one of the things right now that I really like, I want to talk about here. I just went on a tirade there, sorry, but I really want to talk about here something that I don't think anybody's talking about. Nobody on either side of this, they're talking. None of them are talking about any of this. And when I mean either side, I'm talking about the conservative world, the America First, and then MAGA. We have MAGA, and then we have America First, and neither side, I think, is talking about something that I think is crucial to this whole debate. And as you can see, I have an article up on my page, right? And I'm going to give you a bit of a hint at what exactly I think it is that nobody is talking about. Now, let me just set this up. Okay, see, here's my big problem with the America First crowd, the Nick Fuentes, Mark Dice, Matt Walsh. Well, Matt Walsh is sort of America First light. He doesn't go where Nick Fuentes goes. I think Nick Fuentes is overrated. I don't think he's as smart as he's portrayed to be. Um, I really think he's I don't want to call him an idiot, but I just think he's like, for somebody, it's like with Candace Owens. I was talking about Candace Owens. I made a video and everybody got mad at me for making a video about Candace Owens, that she's an idiot. It's sort of like that. Like somebody who portrays himself as they know things, and I'm sure Nick Fuentes, I mean, I think he's smarter than Candace Owens, that's for sure, but still kind of can be a bit of a dunce on many, many things. And this is particularly for somebody who seems to know history to some degree. Um, that's why I'm to me, when you show that level of, I guess, intellect, I hold you to a higher standard. And when you just kind of fail to meet that standard, I just think so much less of you. I've gone from kind of like thinking, Nick Fuentes makes some good points to, like, now I'm just kind of like, Nick Fuentes is kind of an idiot. So, um, being, well, at least in this situation, it's just being a total idiot. It's like, you're supposed to be smarter than that. Like that's what I'm trying to say. And we're not being very smart here. Matt Walsh, same thing, not being very smart here. Megyn Kelly just chimed in, no, we shouldn't go and die for foreign countries and blah 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 blah. All that typical stuff. It's just Tucker Carlson, his thing. And I'm sitting back here. I'm just going, maybe I'm the weird one. Maybe I'm the odd one. Um, because I'm looking at this from a totally different angle. And I am America First. I am America First, and I want to make the case to you that America First is intervention in Iran. I want to make that case to you. And the way I want to make that case is with, like, the article I have right up here. And I was just doing some research, preparing for this video. It's like, hey, I need to, I want to look into this more. Um, and so I just kind of like, and I use ChatGPT to help me out a little bit here. I got some notes pulled up, and they'll probably help me out because I tend to drone on and I'm not very good with stats. I admit, and I'm just kind of new to a lot of the stuff, but I'm giving it a shot. What I am good at though is history. And here's the thing, studying history has helped me gain perspective on things. I used to be, I'm going to be, look, I'll just be straight with you. I used to be where Tucker's at today. I used to be where Megyn Kelly's at today. Fuentes and Dave Smith and all these guys, pretty much borderline just non-interventionist, like pre-World War II kind of people. Don't care what's going on in the world. Who cares? It's not our business and blah blah blah. We should just take all our troops, bring them back home. And I do think that that's true in a lot of cases. I do think that there's a lot of places where we just don't need troops. Like, let's just bring them back home. Uh, Divert those sources somewhere else where they're actually useful. But I used to be like this, But as I got a flag back here, by the way. I got that for Christmas, like almost 10 years ago when I was in my little libertarian phase. Now it's just kind of sitting there covering up a electrical wall thing, or panel, because it's just ugly. I don't know why that's there, but I just use it to cover that. That's literally the only reason that's there. Like, I'm not libertarian anymore at all. I would like to get a flag to replace that, more Christian. I'm all about the kingdom of God being more present in the world around us as a reality, not some far from the future idea. Again, I'm not for I'm not premillennial. I'm not dispensationalist. I'm not, the Jews. We want to be blessed. We gotta protect the Jews. Kind of, I'm not into that stuff. And by the way, I just say here real quickly, the idea that we should have, even if you are pro that, the idea that we should have foreign that our foreign policy should be designed around a theological position is national suicide. It's stupid. You should not create foreign policy based on dispensationalism. That is dumb. Okay. But that being said, like I said, I've learned more and more about history, and the more I understand history, the more I learn about events like World War I, World War II. I was talking with a buddy of mine on my Facebook post today. I've been trying to get my America First friends hate all this, what we're doing in Iran, to engage me on the subject. Nobody wants to do it. Um, um, and we talked about things like the 30 Years War. Most people don't even know what the heck that is. I don't blame them for that, but I'm just saying there's so much history about the geopolitics and things like that. And the big problem right now with a lot of these America First commentators is you guys are thinking as normal average Americans. That's the real problem. I saw a post today from one of my friends of mine on Facebook, and he's posting like a screenshot of a tweet from Donald Trump way back in like 2013, and he's criticizing the Middle Eastern wars, saying that that the stuff that people are saying about him today, that these wars are just costing us more and more debt, and they're just senseless and just useless and blah 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 blah. And saying, look at Trump, he's being a hypocrite. Now that's possible. It could be that Trump's being a hypocrite. What if there's also another option? Maybe Trump, now that he's in office, has a new perspective on things and realizes, this isn't as simple as I thought it was back when I was not in this world at all. It's actually a little bit more complicated than that. And you and me, the problem is we are just average Americans who, our problems often can get solved with simple phone calls and an email, maybe a text message. That's kind of how we can fix a lot of our problems. Um, when you're running a country, it's a bit of a different situation. There are a lot of things going on, a lot of variables going on. I know a lot of you are going to say, "Oh, so he's just going to do the thing where we're just armchair quarterbacking, therefore we just don't have anything. We should therefore just keep our mouth shut, and not say anything." Nope, not saying that at all. I have no problem. Look, let's be critical when Trump does things wrong. Let's do, whatever. But if we're going to do that, my point is if we're going to do that, we need to actually try and think about things in the way we would if we were running the country. And the problem with Nick Fuentes and all these guys, who just spouting off, shooting from the hip, is they think they know what they're talking about. And in reality, they're speaking as just Americans who have never been in Trump's position as he's in right now. They don't know. I guess maybe let me put it this way. I just mentioned World War One. In World War One, see, it's easy to look at the situation in World War One and go, I just don't understand how that war could have happened. It was so easily avoidable in so many ways. All you had to do was just talk to each other, and that's true to an extent, but that's a bit naive too at the same time. And then you go to Germany mobilizing as a response to Russia mobilizing. One of the things I was thinking about today, France in World War One had a. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but I think it's educational for this. We're going to get into this, but um, I'm trying to help you see some perspective here. This isn't like directly related to what I'm talking about here, but there's a concept I'm talking about here. France in its Entente alliance with Russia. It makes this alliance with Russia, and the idea behind the alliance was, of course, to deter Germany from any aggressive action in the Balkans. It wasn't actually to cause war; it was actually to prevent war. That's actually the purpose behind it. Um, Now, of course, what France forgot to put in their calculations is what happens if Germany actually does go to war. But you have that, and then you have Austria is preparing to mobilize and attack Serbia after it just assassinated Franz Ferdinand. Russia responds because Russia is allied with Serbia. It's got interests in the Balkans, and it had good reason because it needs that strait. I can show you really quickly here. Let's go to Google Earth. We can look at this right now actually. Waiting for it to load. And okay, so we got Russia is up here now. At that period, Ukraine was part of Russia, and this is where the Balkans would be right here. Now over here is the Black Sea. Russia at that period, had all this stuff. Now the problem is Russia needs access to the Black Sea because the Black Sea gives them access to the Mediterranean Sea, which gives them access to the rest of the world. You have to go to for Russia's, sea access, which is important for their economy. They have to basically go through two straits. You got to go through this one right here. I forget the name of it, and then you got to go through the Strait of Gibraltar, right there. If Austria, which the Austro-Hungarian Empire was kind of like all of this, around basically, at that period, pretty big, and it's trying to gain more and more influence and ultimately territory in the Balkans. And Serbia, it's like I think, yeah, that's Serbia right there today. Serbia was getting large, and it's around over here, Sarajevo, where Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, and Austria wanted to attack from this direction, and teach Serbia a lesson. Now, Russia couldn't allow that because they could not allow a potential foreign enemy to control too much territory in the Balkans because, of course, they could stop Russia over here in the Strait. As the Ottoman Empire at that time, that's what this all used to be, the Ottoman Empire. This is now Turkey, of course. And but anyways, there's a fear that Austria could eventually control all of this and could control, therefore, Russia's crucial parts of Russia's economy. So you kind of see. So imagine if you're a Russian. Imagine being a Russian in that period of time, and you're hearing about our Russian emperor. Because Russia was a monarch that period, very autocratic at that period. It was very much so. And so, anyways, but if you're living in Russia at that time, and you're hearing that we're about to go to war for Serbia, the country way off over here, basically, and we're off over here, you might think, why does any of that matter to us? Why Russia first? Like we shouldn't get involved in foreign affairs and blah 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 blah. Well, based on what I just explained to you, well, see, you may not know that at the time period, but then all of a sudden, if you start actually looking into the history, the geopolitical situation that you're actually in, suddenly, wait a minute, it's not that simple. It's not as simple as just let's just ignore what's happening around us. Who cares? If you have potential enemies who control the Balkans, they can control the strait right here and control your access to trade. They can basically squeeze you by the, you know what, and if they wanted to. That's a serious problem for Russia. And so Russia could not allow that to happen. Now, at the same time, that's when Russia starts to mobilize because, and by the way, Russia mobilizes before anybody else does. And Russia's mobilization freaks Germany out, the German Empire. And by the way, the German Empire had all of this at that period of time, had all of that. And so Russia and Germany, they bordered each other. And so when Russia mobilizes, Germany freaks out, the German Empire freaks out, and they respond with mobilization, which causes France to mobilize because Germany is about to attack France, and it's just all goes downhill from there. But anyways, so like the point is guys, is you have to, when you're in leadership like this, you got to you can't sit around and just think like you and I would. Like when you see a potential threat, you can't sit around and just go, well, I'm just going to wait till see if he actually shoots at me, and then I'm going to do something. No, you can't afford to do that because if Russia mobilizes and you don't mobilize on the grounds that, well, maybe they're, well, let's just wait and see what happens. They're fully mobilized, they're getting ready to go to war, and you haven't even mobilized at all, and you're just like, well, let's just see if they'll go home. Like, what's going to happen? You're going to get steamrolled because they'll start they could, it's potentially. So you don't know what they're going to do. So you have to mobilize. You have to meet threats with equal amounts of force, of potential threats. You have to do that as a country. You don't have a choice. If you don't, you lose everything. So, anyways, all that to basically say, guys, this is not as simple as well. It's just we should just not go over there. We just shouldn't. Like it's not that simple. It's so much more complicated than that. So here's my proposal. Because one of the things I'm getting sick and tired of hearing, I'm getting sick and tired of one hearing the America First guys saying, "Oh, it's just all just about wars for Israel," and then I'm also hearing getting sick and tired of hearing the MAGA folks saying, "Well, we just want the Iranian people. This is all just about freeing the Iranian people. This is all just about keeping Iran from keep getting nukes and whatever." Like those are true. I think those are actually true, but there's more to it than that. And I just kind of wish Trump, this is my gripe with Trump. I wish Trump would just be straightforward and honest. First of all, just say this has got nothing to do with Israel. With Israel, this has got nothing to do with it. It's just no. It's just Mark Dice. Like, come on, dude. You're out of your freaking mind here. That just doesn't. I just don't see any proof of that. And I think the fact that Mark Dice spends over half of his whole video talking about stuff that Israeli lobbyists have said, like not related to this topic at all, it just proves he doesn't have any actual proof that this is for Israel. Like I was watching this, I was expecting to hear people saying things like recently, like as this is developing, saying things like, this is like Netanyahu saying something about it. And so far as I can tell, I haven't heard anything from that guy. Mark Dice certainly didn't post anything on his video, and he would have posted it if it was there. So clearly Netanyahu's not really saying much about this. Probably implies this ain't about Israel and Israel's greater nation goal thing or whatever. But let's just be straight. Like, why don't we just be honest? My argument is this. The reason why the United States has to get involved and continue to maintain involvement in the Middle East is because of the oil. It's the oil. I think it's pretty simple. So this article here gives us some information. So the world's largest oil reserves, just four countries control over half of the planet's proven oil reserves. You got Saudi Arabia, 267 billion barrels, Iran, 209 billion, and then Venezuela, 303 billion, which is the most, as you can see. Which is why I was totally cool with us taking out Maduro, because that was in our national interest. Like, that was right in our backyard. Very, very crucial thing. I was totally all for that, and I sleep like a baby, accepting that premise. But see, like the America First guys, they don't think any about it, and they're not thinking about any of this stuff. They're just not thinking about any of it. All they're just thinking about is foreign wars, foreign wars, foreign wars. It's just all they're thinking about. Jews, 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 and it's so annoying, and like I just kind of have to make fun of it, because if I don't, I'm going to pull my hair out. And all right, so Canada's got a pretty good actual reserve, 163 billion. That's pretty good. But I heard that theirs is actually expensive for certain reasons. Okay, so the countries with the most oil reserves. So you have here like key takeaways. Just four countries control more than half of the world's proven oil reserves. Despite the energy transition, fossil fuels still account for nearly 70% of global energy demand. 70% of global energy demand. That is significant, guys. That is very, very significant. So oil remains one of the most strategically important resources in the global economy. It powers transportation systems, it underpins industrial activity, and continues to shape geopolitics and trade flows. Excuse me. While renewable energy is growing, oil still plays a dominant role in meeting global energy needs. This one right here, this visualization ranks countries by the size of their proven oil reserves at the end of 2024. The data for this graphic comes from OPEC's annual statistical bulletin 2025. Figures represent proven oil reserves as of year-end 2024 and are measured in billions of barrels. The data includes conventional crude oil as well as oil sands. All right. So you have, it goes into a lot more stuff here. Venezuela has the world's largest proven oil reserves, about 303 billion barrels, but U.S. sanctions have limited its ability to export crude and fully monetize this resource, which I'm totally for, because they're selling it to a lot of America's primary enemies, China and potentially Russia. Russia's starting to get more quizly on us here, and I'm not for it. Tucker, of course, is totally cool with it. Tucker's an idealist. He's not a realist. Okay, He's not about honestly the reality of things. If he really was, when Steve Dace invited him on the show, on his show, to talk about his interview with Mike Huckabee, he invited both of them on. Tucker probably should have taken it on, but he's not going to do that because Tucker's not interested in actually talking to people who could probably challenge his views. He wants to, like, he saw Mike Huckabee and Ted Cruz, easy targets that he can just, go after. But when you're not an easy target, like, that's why Tucker has people who are, he's only interviews people who are going to agree with him, or he's going to interview people who he can see as just an easy target, you know. So that's why I get frustrated with Tucker, and I'm starting to lose my respect for Tucker. And I'm saying that as somebody who's not like Israel first or anything like that, and I don't think most people would say they are, but I'm not. I'm not as like I told you, my theology. The reason why I started with one of the reasons why I started with my sort of theological views really quickly is to tell you that I have no stake in the game towards Israel whatsoever. I got none because my theological views do not dictate that I should have a particular view towards Israel that I wouldn't have towards any other human beings. I treat them just like any other human beings. I don't treat them as the special people of God. I don't do that at all. The special people of God are people who believe in Christ. Period. End of story. But so I'm not. I don't have any particular allegiance to Israel. That being said, when I see things and I try to see things as they really are, I just look at what's going on here and I'm going, the reason why we're involved is the oil. I mean, you look at the Iranian oil, the Saudi Arabia oil, like all this stuff. That's why we have, by the way, go to Google Earth again. Let's go to the Middle East. Whoop. So this is, I think this is the Hormuz. What I forgot. I always get the name mixed up. Straits, but this right here, a lot of the oil comes right from here and goes out this way and blah 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 blah. Over here in Qatar, we zoom in on Qatar, we have a base right there. There's a base right there. You can see a lot of our planes parked there, C-130s. That's what those look like there. The big old cargo planes. I always forget what those are called, but it's a pretty big base. It's a very big base. Right from this base, whenever something crap hits the fan, we can just launch aircrafts from here. We got maritime presence out here, all this kind of stuff. And of course, you have the Suez Canal right there, kind of vital to global trade. So it's kind of like really important, right? That's why we have a base there. That's that's the only reason why we have a base there, because we have to maintain a continuous presence, military presence there, because we cannot allow foreign powers to control that oil reserve. China wants in on that so bad, so does Russia. And it is our aggressive control of that keeps that from basically happening. And guys, I'm making the case for you. This is the case I want to make to you. Like I just showed you in this article. Look at this. Remember, let's go back real quickly here. Oil remains one of the most strategically important resources in the global economy. It powers transportation systems. It underpins industrial activity and continues to shape geopolitics. So you have here, right here, also in this key takeaway, despite the energy transition, fossil fuels still account for nearly 70% of global energy demands. So in other words, guys, it's almost like you can almost say oil is the blood flow of the global economy. And whoever controls that kind of controls the global economy. So my question to my America First friends, do you want any foreign powers to control that? Like China? Do you want them to control that? Can you imagine what would happen if China had taken the United States' place as sort of the primary military influence in the Middle East? Or Russia? Why aren't we asking those kind of questions? And I do appreciate the guys on Steven Crowder. They sort of threw this in at the very end, like they were talking about the like 3 or 4 reasons why the Iranian thing is a good thing, and most of it was dealing with the nukes, the missiles, and Iranian freedom. And I do think those are definitely in play. Like those are definitely things that I think are legit. And they spent very little time at the very end on the one about keeping China from getting any serious influence, you might say, in that region, because China is really our our rival right now, and we cannot allow them to control that. This is about, guys. This is about China. This is about Russia. This is about keeping the United States as the global superpower. Hey guys, I thought you and I like see me. I'm all about America first. And when I say America first, dude, I'm just gonna be straight with you. I want an American empire. I just watched a video this morning about why empires in the the old empires were actually good, and we've been raised as children, by movies like Star Wars and all these movies. Go watch all these childhood movies and see how often they represent the evil bad guys as these great empires, and they're just being tyrannical because they're empires, kind of like that. These are training us, guys, to see empire as synonymous with evil. And this guy in this video, he goes through and he talks about how actually that's not true. Now, he doesn't romanticize empires. He acknowledges, yes, they were cruel in many, many ways. But what he acknowledges is the world we currently live in would not exist without empires. The way that they help develop better education, better infrastructure. I mean, you would not have that without these great, powerful, Western, mostly Christian empires. I mean, he talked a lot about the Roman Empire, and that's one thing, but even the Roman Empire was kind of crucial to the foundational undercut of what would eventually become European society, which would lead to the British Empire, the Spanish Empire, the French, well, I guess the French Empire for about a couple of years, but the Russian Empire, the German Empire, but especially the British Empire. I say, let's make empire great again. Make empires great again. Let's make an American empire. I like that idea. I think that's totally cool. And I think this is one of the ways we do it. And I'm just getting sick and tired of hearing all these America First guys who are just like tunnel visioned on no foreign wars, no foreign wars, no foreign wars. Choose, 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 choose. I'm just so tired of it. It's just dumb. It's stupid. You know, it's so incredibly tunnel visioned. It's the broader picture of a lot of these guys, a lot of you guys, it's just not even there. And this is probably that's what makes me so mad. Is you guys are smarter than this. You've shown me that you're smarter than this, Matt Walsh and Nick Foyt. Like I thought you're better than this. And you guys are acting kind of like idiots. I'm like, how in the world is nobody like seeing any of this? Like what? Why is nobody talking about this? It's just Israel. We're just going to war for Israel. I don't think that's the case. I don't think there's really much evidence at all for that. At least, I mean, I could be wrong. I could be missing something. But just to close this out, I just want some more stats here. A lot of what we just already said. But largest share holders in the region, the Middle East region, Saudi Arabia has 260 to 270 billion barrels. Iran 200 plus billion. Iraq has 140 to about 150 billion. Kuwait 100 plus billion. United Arab Emirates, 110 billion. So here we have why this matters geopolitically. Even though the U.S. produces large amounts of oil domestically today, the Middle East remains critical because, one, a significant portion of global oil exports originate there. Around 20% of global petroleum consumption moves through the Strait of Hormuz. I kind of had it right. 3, oil markets are globally priced. Disruption anywhere affects prices everywhere. Once again, that's why we cannot allow China or Russia to control that. We just can't allow that. And again, I wish Trump would just be straight up with that and just say, yeah, because we it's sort of the same reason why we did what we did in Venezuela. We can't, oil is kind of crucial. We can't let foreign powers, again, be able to kind of grip us by the, just twist whenever they want or squeeze whenever they want. So it says here, so while the U.S. may not need Middle Eastern oil in a direct important sense as much as in the 1970s, global economic stability is still heavily tied to the region's output. I mean, it is. We are becoming increasingly more energy independent, but currently still, it is still crucial that we maintain a significant control of the Middle Eastern oil flow. We can't just, it is incredibly naive to just sit there and just say, well, let's just pull out. Let's just, why don't we just get out of there? You know, there's no reason for us to be there. There is a reason for us to be there. Just nobody wants to be honest about it. And that's my problem. That's like, to me, like that's the big thing that just irritates me so much. So I could go on here. I think I've made my points. I don't want this to go way much longer than it needs to go. I hope this is informative to you, and I will talk to you all later.